Good afternoon, one and all. I, Dr. Sagar Patel, from Department of Pharmaceutical Analysis, Bombay College of Pharmacy, will moderate the third session of this 5-day faculty development program. In the previous session, we learned about the basics of the computer-aided drug design from Professor E.C. Coutinho. Now for the next lecture, we have a workshop where we will be learning about the various tools that can be used for the computer-aided drug design, which will be conducted by our very own Dr. Elvis Martis. Dr. Elvis Martis has completed his B.Pharm from VES College of Pharmacy in 2011. He has completed his M.Pharm in pharmaceutical chemistry and PhD in computational chemistry under the supervision of Professor Ivan Coutinho at Bombay College of Pharmacy. He has developed methods to understand drug-resistant mutations using computer simulations. His current research is primarily concerned with early stage drug discovery for infectious diseases and to counter drug resistance. His keen interest in employing free energy calculations and enhanced sampling techniques to understand complex protein dynamics, which are helpful to unravel binding mechanisms. He has previously worked as a consultant as a computational chemist for various drug discovery projects in India as well as in abroad. He has supervised 2 MSc students for the dissertation projects. He has 33 publications in his name, which includes 4 book chapters. He also serves as an editorial board member of reviewer for various journals and evaluates papers submitted in the field of computational chemistry and bioinformatics. With this brief introduction, I would now like Dr. Elvis to enlighten us with his presentation and talk.
Just hold the camera just away from you so that
over to you, Dr. Elvis.
Thank you, Sagar. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you so much. What I'd like to do is today I'm going to demonstrate to you.
Switch on your cameras.
There is some disturbance. Can everybody please mute their microphone? Yeah, thank you so much. So what I'm going to do today is take you to the journey of structure-based drug design using molecular docking. We're going to design some drugs based on some already known drug using experimental resolved X-ray crystal structure. Before that, I would like to briefly take you to what generally a molecular docking workflow looks like. So any workflow in molecular docking will have essentially 2 parts. One is the search algorithm and one is the scoring function. Okay, the search algorithm is basically going to place the ligand in the binding pocket, which is previously identified by any of the methods you would have employed to do that. The best method to find the binding site would be starting from a co-crystallized structure where the crystal structure was solved in presence of an inhibitor, so that you directly know where the inhibitor binds, and that is experimentally proven by several means. After you have done that, there is a defined search space that we call it as a binding site or a catalytic site or whatever the case may be in your case. So the docking algorithm is going to place randomly with randomized conformations first, and then it is going to use one of these several or in tandem with the other search algorithms and try to find out all possible conformations that are accessible to the ligand in the binding pocket. The binding pocket now essentially serves as a constraint, because the molecule have a different sort of freedom in solvent where it is all by itself, and it will have a different kind of constraints where it's placed in the binding pocket. So one of these methods which are going to be used to sample all the techniques, and among the ones which are going to be the best ones are going to be screened out or ranked by the scoring functions. So we have 5 algorithms, or if you can add them into, like, you can use a systematic search plus a molecular dynamic or a local search. You can make so many out methods, and with machine learning you have even the search algorithms have gone even beyond the scope. I mean, this search algorithms are just not limited to, I mean, there are many more. I've just give you 5 examples that are routinely used in all examples. So if you're using GLIDE, for example, that Schrodinger is giving on context of drug design algorithm, so it uses a systematic search in the beginning, and it is doing a Monte Carlo simulations in the end. If you have used Autodoc or Autodoc Vina in the past, then Autodoc and Autodoc Vina use genetic algorithms as a search algorithms, and there are various tools which use MD simulations or use local shape feature mapping, and so there are so many methods. And force field based scoring functions are basically counting the number of interactions and in scoring or ranking them or putting them in terms with the energy, and the ones which makes most number of interactions will be ranked higher, or I would put it this way, if you make most number of favorable interactions, reducing the unfavorable interactions, you'll be going to be ranked higher. So there are various ways to do it. Force field based methods, as you saw Professor Coutinho just mentioned about the force field, it is going to take the intermolecular, now you know interactions, non-covalent interactions can have van der Waals component and it can have electrostatic component. So it is going to be because one part of the atom is coming from the ligand, which is to be docked, and one part is coming from the receptor, which is going to see that interaction. And based on that, you make a scoring function. The empirical is, by the name suggests, empirical is by fitting. You are going to see a lot of experimental structures and going to see what interactions and how much favored they are in space, favored they are in nature. So you're going to make a fit based on what you see in nature. And knowledge based is basically counting the number of favorable interactions seen in nature, and the more number of counts is going to rank that interactions higher, less number of counts, which means the probability of making that interaction is lower, is going to rank them lower. This is actually a component of any docking program which you use is going to comprise of these two components. The third component is actually the chemist or the molecular modeler who's going to do that. One is the accuracy. How do we know that it is correct? How do we know that docking algorithm is doing it correctly? Okay, and when you're using docking for virtual screening experiments, then you need to know what is the enrichment factor. Enrichment factor is essentially telling you that if you and the docking algorithm were to choose active analogs, what is the probability of machine scoring better than you? Okay, you are going to choose at random, just like you just pick up from balls, red and white balls from a bucket. So what is the probability of you picking the red ball? So machine is going to find out all this. Machine has a particular algorithm to find this. So if the enrichment factor is higher, that means machine is doing far better than random. Okay, and biological validation is actually the acid test of telling you whether your docking algorithms was actually able to predict better. Okay, so sorry, yeah. So basically, the steps in molecular docking are either we import coordinates from the protein data bank, is nothing but RCSB, or you make a homology model in case you do not have a protein target, but you know the sequence and you know the homologous proteins that have been already crystallized or solved using NMR spectroscopy. Okay, then you prepare the coordinates. That preparing the coordinates is basically, if you recall also from Dr. Patrawale's talk in the morning, that there are a lot of clashes involved. Sometimes the crystallographer cannot resolve the clash, especially in terms that X-ray crystallography is inefficient to locate protons or hydrogens. So when the software adds hydrogens, sometimes there is a clash. So you need to relieve that clashes. You need to prepare that coordinate file into a proper file format which is compatible with the software you're using. Energy minimization is one way to take out all the clashes. Then grid generation here is in terms of talking about what should be a search algorithm. Now that we defined a search algorithm, you have to tell it what is the search space. You cannot have an entire protein surface given to a search algorithm, because it is going to take enormously long time. So once you know that there is, the binding site, you know 5 angstroms, 6 angstroms around the binding site as suitable for interaction, you define that, you put it as a grid box. Okay. Docking validation is to know that how well your docking is doing. It is this is what one part of the experiment I'm going to show, how to take from the X-ray crystal structure, how docking is going to reproduce that or no. That is validation. And if your docking algorithm is well validated, so you can use that for binding docking molecules which are unknown, or basically that is what you're trying to design, new molecules. Okay, and then we dock ligands and we analyze. Analysis is actually is based on what the chemist is looking for, what particular questions you ask for. So this could have different questions for everybody. So some questions would be define or design ligands that are increasing affinity to a particular target, or my question could be design a ligand which is selective to a particular target. So analysis will have a specific question that is defined at the beginning of your beginning of your experiment, and then it is going to vary from person to person or project to project. Okay, so how do I define a grid space? So basically, this is the entire grid space. Now here, the grid space is around entire protein site. But in the case today, we're going to only define protein in this particular area where I know my binding site is, and I know that the X-ray crystallography has shown that the molecule binds in this particular pocket and nowhere else. So I am going to define the pocket right here in this, and so that if I take the center of mass of this particular ligand, the grid space around 10 or 12 angstrom should be enough to have a good sampling. But I've shown a bigger box just to make clear what I'm trying to do here. So basically, to save the protein structure and to do computations fast is actually a very memory intensive job. So to reduce the memory, what computers can do is you can define a box here, and on this grid points they are defined, you can save the protein atom information or the kind of interaction that the protein atom is supposed to make on this grid box. And then when you're actually docking, you do not have to just place the ligand inside, because your protein is defined by your grid box. And when I say defined by a grid box, it's basically showing that which interactions are possible. So every point will have a particular interaction which is predominant than the other. And a probe atom actually behaves as a protein atom, which is moved on each grid point in the point, and this interactions are counted. So if you get most favorable interactions, then the pose or the conformation, which we call, is ranked higher. And once you have more number of repulsive interactions, the pose is ranked lower, and you get certain poses that you asked for. Okay, so what I'm going to demonstrate today is Autodock using Veena. So I am the idea of doing this is to use all the open source or free for academic software, so that everybody can go back home today and do this little experiment what I taught you today. So the first software I'm going to use is basically a very good visualizer, UCSF Chimera, which I'm going to use to import and manipulate the PDB files, that is the protein data bank files, which has information about the protein coordinates and the inhibitor coordinates. MGL tools is required for preparation of software, the system for suitable for Autodock Veena. It basically converts from one file format to other file format and adds necessary partial charges to all the atoms required. Autodock Veena is actually the docking program which I'm going to use today. OpenBabel is another open source program which I'm going to use to convert files from Autodock compatible that are compatible for Autodock, and which are convert them to be prepared, which are compatible with Maestro Schrodinger, which is a good visualizer. I'm using Maestro only for the visualizer purpose. Maestro is actually free for academics. However, you'll have to write to Schrodinger to grant you access to download the software. Once you do that, you'll get a login ID. And I think it's free for all the academics. If you have an academic login, you can download this program and use it. What system I'm going to demonstrate to you is HIV-1 protease bound to amprinavir. Amprinavir is a drug which is given for HIV drug. As you remember the last slide from Professor Coutinho's talk, he spoke about nelfinavir, which entirely came out from structure-based drug design. Amprinavir was also one of other example that came out of structure-based drug design. So is the amprinavir analog, which is another generation drug, which also came out from structure-based drug design. I have sort of highlighted some areas here just to indicate that what structural modifications I am going to do. Now, this is my perception of how I'm going to modify the drug. If you want to do your own experiment, you could design several other ways to modify the drug. Now, what I do not want to modify is this particular side chain is this here. I'm not going to modify that, because protease, as the name suggests, it is basically breaks down proteins. And the role of this enzyme in the viral protein is to break down the large polypeptide chain into small structural or functional proteins. So once you are going to inhibit this protease enzyme with one of these drugs, which are available, marketed, this protein assembly is going to stop, and the virus is going to be immature, which is also one of the strategies used for COVID-19 these days, that is MPRO, that is main protease, which has shown significant results. The idea is for that protease to identify, I need to have a molecule which has a protein-like backbone. So you know that protein has CO, NH, CO like NH. This kind of backbone is very similar to protein, but not exactly like the protein. So this backbone becomes very essential for your identification or the ligand recognition by the target. So if you see this kind of a geometry exactly resembles like phenylalanine, this one of the amino acid chain. So basically now I'm going to work with two file formats, that is PDB and that is PDB-QT. One is available by X-ray crystallography and one is used for docking. So if you look at what PDB looks like, you will have, if you open your PDB file in any text editor on your laptop or on a computer, you will see these entries. So what these entries mean? The first column is written atom. The word atom here signifies that this particular coordinate belongs to either a protein atom or a DNA atom or an RNA atom. In short, these are are identifiers that this particular coordinates belong to a biomacromolecule, a protein, an RNA, or so and so forth. The second column tells you about the number of atoms. Atom number one. Atom number one in this case is nitrogen. So we know that always the proteins have are read from N terminal to C terminal. So the first atom, that is N terminal, is always N. This is aspartate residue. The chain identifier is A, because protease enzyme is a homodimer which has A chain and B chain exactly identical, like a pair of scissors. Basically, you're cutting the protein, so you have identical pair of scissors. Protease are identically have two side chains. One is labeled A, one is labeled B. Okay, and this is the amino acid number 2. Okay, and these are the XYZ coordinates. So we are talking about 3D space. So 3D spaces are defined using XYZ coordinates. These are actually the occupancy. That means this particular atom is found 50% in this particular conformation and 50% in some other conformation. Okay, this is the temperature factor, which means how much flexible this residue. The higher the number, is more it is flexible. So in this case, it is 28. That means it's quite flexible because it's the N terminal. N terminal residues are known to be very flexible. And this is actually a non-essential column, which is exact replica of this one. But here I have the atom type information, that is N, C alpha, C, CO. The basic nomenclature of the proteins. This is how the atoms are named. Okay. In some cases, you do not have this column. That is okay. That's why I called it. This is a non-essential column. Okay. The moment I convert this format into a PDB-QT format, which is required for autodock docking, there's no change occurred except for the last two columns. So last two columns. Now you see the protein here or the PDB file did not have any charge information. The partial charges are important to calculate point charge interactions. How do you know that a charge is positive and a charge is negative? So you have the Q here stands for charge. Okay, and you get charge information based on amber force field, which is going to apply, and it is going to tell what kind of interaction is going to have. So this is an oxygen. This oxygen behaves as an hydrogen pair acceptor. Here is a hydrogen to this, and this hydrogen behaves as a hydrogen pair donor, and it's an hydrophobe or a carbon. And this is how a PDB-QT file for a protein looks like. And the same PDB-QT file is slightly complicated for small molecules. Here, what I forgot to tell you is PDB-QT, the Q and T stands for charge and torsion information. Now, there is no torsion information in case of proteins because we are going to treat proteins as rigid. I know this is a assumption to make so that your calculations are tangible in time and they get over quickly, but you can also treat proteins as flexible. But the time to finish your one docking experiment is going to be 10 times or 20 times more than when you treat rigid protein. So here, but small molecules have to be treated flexibly, that you allow all the torsion angles to rotate. What I mean by torsion angles is this single bonds which are allowed to rotate but this is not allowed to rotate because this has a double bond character. All these single bonds attachments are actually torsion angles which are allowed to rotate. So this actually tells you where the torsion angle lies. Okay, there are 16 of them. I'm going to, when we actually convert this molecule, you will get that the software out 16. It will shout to you the 16. Here you can actually treat one of these molecules and mark and not allow the transition to happen. For example, here active means it is allowed to rotate, and inactive means that particular single bond is not allowed to rotate. So even that you want to keep it fixed, but you want to keep some restraints in your sampling, so you can keep some of them some of them fixed and some of them flexible. So here it is again the same. You have information. The het atom here means it is any other atom which is not coming from either protein, DNA, or RNA. That is heteroatom. We call it as. Other annotations are same. This is supposed to be a name of the ligand, which in this case is unknown. And you have the XYZ coordinates, and you have the charges again, and what kind of interactions made. Oxygen A or oxygen that acts as a hydrogen bond acceptor. Okay. So now I'm going to move exactly to make to show you the actual part how it is done. So we visit the protein data bank site, which has a URL of RCSB that houses for all experimentally solved molecules right here with a particular accession number. Even if you're working on one of the COVID targets, it will be available here because there are a plethora of X-ray structures that have been come up in such a short time. So what we are going to what we are interested in today is emprinavir bound to HIV reverse transcriptase. So I simply type emprinavir, and it is going to come up somewhere here. And there are so many. Since I'm going to start with the drug design, I'm going to start with the wild type. Okay, I'm going to ignore this because this is HIV protease 2. This is HIV protease 1, but this is a variant strain, a resistant variant strain. Oops, sorry. Okay, I'm going to work with this particular PDB, which says wild type HIV1 protease with anti-HIV drug emprinavir. So what I need to look for when I'm beginning beginning to download any protein structure is foremost the resolution. So the lower this number is better the crystal structure. That means they have been resolved to a very great high quality structure. Numbers that go beyond 2.5 angstroms are to be taken with a pinch of salt because they might have a lot of missed side chain information. Okay, 1.02 is a very excellent structure. What next we're going to look at is here, if there is any information about chain broken. Sometimes crystallography is a very difficult, tedious task to do, that you have to measure the reflections of all the atoms in space. Sometimes it is very difficult to measure some of the highly flexible part of the protein, that is generally some loops. So if that some of the loops are missing, it is already mentioned here, that loop missing, that you have to be very careful. This gives information about what all is present. This is our ligand of interest, emprinavir, and rest all glycerol is actually preserve the crystal geometry in that low temperature so that the crystal is not destroyed while the X-rays are bombarded. And there are some other salts which are added to get better crystals with better resolution. It also gives you the binding activity data, what they have experimentally found out. This is Ki, that is inhibition constant, is 1.5 nanomolar, which is extremely tight binding ligand. Okay, most of protease inhibitors you will be finding in this range. There are few which are also in the picomolar ranges, which are extremely tight binding. And beyond that, measuring the binding actually becomes problematic for your experiment, because to measure picomolar or nanomolar levels of concentrations becomes a challenge for the instrument itself. So now that we have, we can download this protein. You can download it in two ways. Either you directly download from the site, says download files PDB format. But now most of the visualizers are equipped enough to directly download it for you in the workspace that you're using. So as I said earlier, I am going to use UCSF Chimera as my visualizer to prepare proteins. So if you see at the bottom, there is two buttons called browse and fetch. Fetch is basically to get it from any databases, and browse is to get any structure that is already downloaded on your machine. So I'm going to use fetch. Before I do that, I have to set download directory. That means where do I want Chimera to save my file? It is always a good idea to save your download files in the workspace where you're working, so that you don't look for your files everywhere here and there. So I'm working in the FDP folder in 2020, FDP 2020 in the workshop folders. So I'm going to save it here and set up that this is going to be my save directory. I'm going to save it and close. So now you just have to copy this 4-letter code, which is unique to every entry in this protein, and say download and say fetch. It is going to take some time. Okay, it is done quite quickly. So this is how your HIV protease looks like. When I said it's actually your pair of scissors, homodimers. So you see the blue part of the ribbon on the left and the red part of the ribbon on the right are exactly identical. If I look at the protein this way, and if I look at the protein 180 degrees, it is going to be exactly same. This is now you see that there are some double entries, which is exactly the problem of crystallography. So since it was a dimer, crystallographer found out that this particular atom could be placed here and could be placed here with equal probability. So instead of that, he just let it keep it, and then the program will decide which one. Even in small molecule that is bound, amplinavir has two conformations, one in this N to N and this. Both actually conformations are same, one looking at this particular chain and one looking at this particular chain. So what we are going to do is we're going to keep only one of them because they are identical. There's no danger of deleting the other. Okay. So before that, I need to delete all the unwanted part. That is this anion, this Cl ion, this waters, and some glycerol that was there, which is not essential for a docking experiment. So we are going to delete all of them. How do we delete that? Is we go to the select bar. If you click on the residue, it's going to show you all that non-standard residues and protein residues. So I'm going to select Na and actions and delete. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete HOH, which is water. Whatever I select there is getting highlighted as green and also mentioned at the bottom with 219 at 91 atoms selected, and I'm going to delete that. Okay, the last part what is left to be deleted is the glycerol, and the last part which remains is the chloride ions, which is somewhere I can't see it, but it is there, I know. So just delete it. Now that we have only atoms which are of our interest, every other atom that was just to enhance the crystal quality has been deleted out. Okay. So the next part is to add hydrogens. If you see, crystallography was not high resolution enough to measure where the hydrogens are. Just because you do not have hydrogens, now it doesn't know whether this ring looks like benzene or the ring looks like cyclohexane. It's all the same for me. But once we create or once we prepare the protein correctly, it will be able to identify that whether where the hydrogens are and how the protein ring should look like. So the best way to do this is there is one short way to do this is go to tools, structure editing, and you have a workflow that says doc prep, which has so many. So I have already deleted the solvent, so I will uncheck this, and I do not want to write any of the Molto files. So you have anything, add hydrogens, add charges. If there are some side chains missing, sometimes it is a possibility using X-ray crystallography. It is going to add the missing side chains because it knows the sequence protein and it knows how the backbone conformation is. So based on this rule set up by this Rotamer library, it is going to add the incomplete chains. And there are some post-transition modifications that happen physiologically or made experimentally for some reason that is going to be flipped back to the nearest natural amino acid. So selenomethionine is quite a common post-transition modified methionine derivative, but that needs to be treated as methionine because there are some force-field issues that will happen because selenium is not a very commonly occurring atom element in medicine chemistry. So once I hit OK, so it is going to ask me a set of questions. So I'm going to add hydrogens to this particular atom. Okay, and it is going to add hydrogens based on the name. So if I have histidine, I'm going to add histidine. Okay. Histidine, whether a histidine is protonated, diprotonated, or monoprotonated, or whatever, it is going to identify by the name, and it is going to. So aspartate can be neutral, can be -1 charge. Glutamate and lysine can also be charged and uncharged. Cysteines can be CaSH or S- if they're involved in bonding with a metal or bonding with some ligand or bonding as a disulfide bond. So it is going to is going to find out in the X-ray crystal structure the name, and it is going to add hydrogens. So once it adds hydrogens, it is going to tell me what kind of charges do I need to use. So amber, I have so many amber possibilities. The amber 14 is the latest. That is also compatible with Autodoc Vina. So I'm going to keep amber. and what charges to be used for small molecule, that is the ligand what we have here. So gas trigger is what is used by Autodoc Veena. So we are going to keep gas trigger here as well. So it says what is the formal charge. So amprenavir is a neutral molecule. So I'm going to keep it as 0. And here at the bottom it says doc prep completed. Now that you do not see, after adding hydrogens, you still do not see the bond character. So I have to type what is called as aromatic, and whatever aromatic hydrogens rings you have, it will have a disk in the center, and which are not aromatic. For instance, this one has no ring. So you can identify between aromatic rings and non-aromatic rings. Okay. Once we have finished clearing that, we have to do an energy minimization. It is also possible in Chimera. So you say you go to structure file, you say structure editing, and you have minimize structure. Here I'm going to use a very small minimization. That minimization depends on how good quality structure you want, or you want. If you're starting from homology modeling, it is a good idea to do about 10,000 steps or more of HD and about 10% of that in SD. In this case, since I'm using a crystal structure, which is already a high resolution structure, and in respect of time, I'm going to keep it very to only few number of steps, that is 1,000. And it is not a rule of thumb that I'm going to use 10% from this as conjugate gradient. It depends on the quality of the structure as well. So here I'm not going to fix any atoms, but if you would like to fix any atoms that you do not want it to move around during minimization, you can define by simply selecting and saying selected atoms. Here I'm going to let everything free. Okay. This is going to take a while before it starts minimizing. Meanwhile, I can ask the organizers if there are some questions from the previous session or the session now. I will take it because this takes a couple of minutes to do, and we just have to stare at the screen, so we can take up some questions.
Hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sagar.
I don't see any questions from the participants as of now. However, one of the questions that I have is like
Hello,
during
sir.
the homology,
Yeah,
while preparing a homology model, if we have prepared a homology model, how do you plan to, how do you advise to go for minimizing the energy of that developed homology model?
First, the first thing is this is going to be the same approach what I used, but you would want to use more number of steps to minimize it, because homology is quite crude structure. Okay, if you look at the homology model and if you immediately plot a Ramachandran plot, you would really understand that how much of variation or how much of violation has happened. So based on that, you would want to use about 10,000 steps, what I mentioned, because what will happen is if you use 10,000 steps and the structure is refined within that, so the minimizer will stop before 10,000 steps. So after you have done all your minimization, you can actually decide on plotting a Ramachandran plot and deciding how much improvement has occurred and how much improvement more needs to be done, and you can do a second round of energy minimization if you want. Yeah. Is that what you wanted?
Yes, yes.
There is one question in the chat box which Archana Gujar asking is what is reverse docking? Reverse docking, actually, I think Professor Kitino already answered that, but I would answer it again. That if you know about virtual screening, that we know a protein target we want to hit, and you do not know what ligand binds to it, so you basically screen the entire compound library against this one protein target in hope of finding one particular binder. It's the same reverse scenario where you have a set of molecules, but you do not know how to do not know where the protein the molecule is going to bind. You're going to screen that set of molecules against the entire database of proteins. For protein data bank is one such database where you have proteins set. You can actually make an entire database and screen molecules, one molecule against several proteins. This we call it as reverse docking, where it is only aimed that you find out which is a probable target for it. Okay, so this minimization is done. There are two more questions in the chat which I'm going to answer when we wait for the next set of calculations. So now that minimization has been complete, this one thing we need to do is find out the binding site. Now that we know the binding site, but we need to find out what is the XYZ coordinates that we need to define the box around this. Okay, so in this case, what we do is we select the ligand. Here the ligand is 478, which is how the protein identifier says 478. Now see that it is green in color, that means it is selected. Now I'm going to select, find out the center of mass of this particular ligand, and the center of mass is going to serve as the center of my docking box. Okay, so you have such an analysis. You go to axis, planes, and centroids. You have a dialog coming up, and I select define centroid, and it is going to ask me what to name it. I said COM, and rest all to be kept. So this defines how big my sphere is going to be. I can make a very big sphere. I can make the 2 angstrom is a good enough sphere to look at visually. When I said okay, it is going to make a sphere here, which indicates the center of mass. Okay, now I need the exact XYZ coordinate for the center of mass. Okay, it is, if you see the protein, it is not exactly at the center of the protein, but it is the center of mass, because the ligand itself is not linear. So that is how the center of masses are identified. Yeah, then to find out the XYZ coordinates, I am going to click this and say report distances. As soon as I say report distances, so it's going to tell me the XYZ of that particular ligand. This is what information we are going to require to generate our grid. So I'm going to save that information in my working directory. I will name it as centroid dot text, or anything is fine, and I'm going to keep only the axis and centroid information. So once that is done, I can delete this box and I can delete this part, and I can save this particular protein, which I'm going to use for my docking. So it is going to come into my workshop directory. So I'm going to name this as protein and ligand complex, just to indicate that it is part of ligand. The numbering style and the naming style, I'm going to keep it as amber. And now that I see that file here in my file, I see that confirmation information, centroid information, which tells me about, I do not need all this information, so I can just delete it off. This is what the information is all required. I am going to tell you when we use that. Next, we have protein information. That's we can just right click and open it any of your text editor, and you can see how your protein information. Actually, you will find all the information what is there on the protein data set also in your PDB file, which is harmless to keep or delete it if it's too much confusing. It doesn't matter. But our actual information starts from this one, atom 1. Okay, and in the end, you have all the ligand information, which starts from het atom. You see, there's a difference here. It starts from atom, indicating that this is a protein part, and het atom, this is a ligand part. And the ter only indicates that one of the chain terminates and the other component starts. So I'm going to make a copy of it, because when I'm docking, I do not need the ligand in the binding pocket. I need the binding pocket empty. I'm going to make that copy of it and rename it as only protein. And I'm going to edit that file. So right at the end where my het atom confirmation is there, and I'm going to delete all entries and just keep ligand protein entries in this. Okay, so now we have two files, PDB files, one which has only protein, one which has ligand and the protein. Now for docking, I want to start the ligand confirmation from an unbiased confirmation. That is, there are two ways to do that. Either I draw the molecule on any of the visualizer I have, or I can download that ligand from the PubChem dataset. Okay, the PubChem, you can just type the name of the drugs, and you will get the structural information. You can find in so many ways. You can write the name as such, aspirin. You can write the formula, or you can give the SMILES format, or any identifier you know of. You can just copy paste in this bar, and you will get the particular structure. You can also draw the particular structure in here, and then try to find out that whether that molecule has been synthesized or no. So here I'm just going to type amprenavir and see if it exists. Yes, it does exist here. Oh, sorry, just typed it. So I have amprenavir entry here, which is there are so many entries. There are salt forms available. There are all the forms available which are which crystallize. We are going to take only the pure base, that is not any salt form. So you see there are a lot of information given about that drug. That 2D information is given, the 3D coordinates are given, the lab safety information is there, the brand name is given, all the other identifiers that have been there for this target are all the literature information, the structure. What I'm going to take is the 3D conformation from here. Okay, once this loads, I can actually rotate it here and see how that looks in 3D. So I'm going to download this as SDF because this is the one structure format which is identified by most of the programs. So I'm going to save it again in my everything, and I'm going to, okay. So here is what I've saved that file. The next is I'm going to convert this into a PDB file. It is very simple to do that. I have Schrodinger as a workspace, as a tool which I'm going to use to edit the structures and to visualize my docking results. So before I do that, you need to tell Schrodinger that where is my working directory. So I click on change working directory, and I'm going to select desktop, your workshop, and here is my working directory. Once I've changed my working directory to where I'm working, I need to create a new project. That project is going to be remain in the working directory. You can stop working for the day and then come back later and open the project file. You'll find what was the last state where you stopped working. Okay, so I'm going to make a new project and I'm going to say protease FDP 2020. It's up to you to name it whatever. So once the project is made, I am going to import the SDF file what we just sketched. I import structures. It is going to be here. It just appeared on my screen. I am going to just adjust my window so that I can show you the project table where all the structures line one by one. Here, so that you know what structure you're working. Now, the name of the target is not amprenavir. It has some internal identifier number. So I can change that by just double clicking and writing amprenavir. And now that this title is amprenavir. Now that you know that amprenavir is already in the 3D state, okay, it is directly suitable. Oops, sorry. That it is already ready for docking. Okay, so I'm going to quickly say just minimize the ligand slightly, and it should be good enough because now the other part of finding the conformation is going to be done by Autodoc Cleaner. So I just right click and say export structure, and in that export structure I'm going to select the file format PDB, and I leave it by entry name so that amprenavir.pdb gets saved in my folder. Okay, once that is done, here amprenavir is there. If you see same information what we deleted from the previous file, only that these XY coordinates are something different, which is not in the binding pose, so there is no bias that I'm starting from the known pose. The second thing what I need to do is I need to convert this PDB into PDBQT and protein into PDBQT. For that reason, we are going to use Autodoc tools, or it is also known as MGL tools, which is also freely downloadable from the website. The first thing we need to do is also change to the working directory. Okay, that is file preferences and set. I need to ensure that my working directory or my starting directory is my working directory. So how do I do that? Is I just go to the address bar, I just copy and paste this information here and say set. Okay, this is So every time I going to import, it is going to look in my current work directory, and every time I export any structure, it is going to export in my working directory, so that you don't have to look for where the files have been saved. Rest all has to be kept default. You can change according to your wish, that, but ensure that you know what you're doing. Okay, the first thing we need to do is prepare the protein. Now, preparing the protein can be done in two ways. One, using the way using Autodoc Vina, Autodoc tools. Second, I can just write a command line. I already mentioned about OpenBabel. It's a good conversion tool for small molecules. It can be used to convert billions and billions of molecules with a small programming script. So what I'm going to do here is I'm only going to convert my protein structure using Autodoc tools, and I'm going to show you how to convert ligand structures to PDBQT using the OpenBabel tool. In that case, in this case, what we are going to do is go to macromolecules, open. So I'm going to select all files, and I'm going to select this PDB protein. Yes, so it is the thing, and it says now, do I want to save the file? Yes, I need to save the file. I'm going to show you this in a ribbon format. Oops. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to actually check or verify that whether the XYZ coordinates what we selected are also applicable here. So to just give a check, we need to go back to grid and set the grid box. Okay, and say grid as box. So here is my grid box. Okay, so here is my grid box. So I'm going to feed the information that we saved from our centroid.txt file, and just to verify that our XYZ what we have taken is exactly right. So I'm just going to copy this file and paste it as X center. Comes the Y center. This becomes the Z center. The moment I do that, the file arranges itself to the file in the center of the box, which means our calculation of finding the center of mass was correct. Okay, and I can just, I have confirmed enough. I have saved my protein PDBQT file, which I'm going to open it and show it to you so that you know how it looks like. It's here in my working directory, and it looks like exactly I showed you some while in a PowerPoint presentation that it has all the same information, but there is an additional information in the last two columns. Fine. Now I'm going to show you how to use OpenBabel to convert Amprenavir into PDBQT, which is required for docking. So for all those using Windows, if you hold your Shift key and do a right click, you see Open PowerShell or Open Linux terminal. So those who have installed Linux in your Windows 10 machine, so you can use Linux shell, or OpenBabel is also installed in Windows. So you can do that. Either way, the command is not going to change. It is going to be the same. But since I've installed Linux also, I'm comfortable working with Linux file. So I'm going to use a Linux terminal. Okay. So if you don't know where your OpenBabel is installed or any software is installed in Linux, you generally type which option, and I'm going to use OpenBabel. If it is already installed, it tells me that it is installed in the user bin folder, where normally all your folders go. And if you don't know what options to use, you just type OpenBabel and -H help. It gives you a list of things to do with that, or you can refer to OpenBabel website, and they will tell you they have a software manual or documentation which you can refer to use to know how to use it. So I'm going to use OpenBabel. So I am going to type, now my input format is PDB. That's why I've written IPDB, and the file is Amprenavir. So if I type Amprenavir, it says that is already come. So if the file is already present, you can either type it entirely. And for those who are very familiar with Linux, you know that if you type 4-5 letters and hit a tab button, and if the file is existing in the directory, it will directly show it up. Second, my output format is PDBQT. So I write OPDBQT. Now that I already have 3D information, so I can directly jump to calculate the charges. So I write partial charge gas trigger, and the file that should come out is PDBQT. If you do not have a 3D structure and you have a 2D structure, you would want to keep one more tab is Gen 3D. Okay, but in this case, I have already a 3D structure. I'm not going to use this Gen 3D command. And the moment you hit, so it says one molecule converted, and you see here that Amplinavir PDBQT is already in. So it looks like the same as you showed. It has all the information that it requires, but it doesn't have hydrogens. Remember, it has only polar hydrogens. Actually, Autodoc Vina does not have yeah, force field or parameters for non-polar hydrogens. It has only information or force field charges for polar hydrogens. That's why it has no sense keeping the hydrogens. So it has deleted all the other hydrogens, kept only hydrogens that are connected to NH or OH or SH. Now we have everything that needs for us to dock the molecule, and we are going to, an Autodoc Vina is already installed in the command in my machine. So there are two ways to run Autodoc Vina. One is the command line version, or one is I can use Autodoc to run command to run Autodoc. But if you want to automate your docking, that let's say you want to dock like 100 molecules together, so it's always good idea to use the command line interface, because it allows you to do write a one line command, and it does the docking iteratively over 100 molecules. But today we are going to dock only one of them to show, and I have some pre-computed to show you how a drug design is done in molecular docking. So before that, again the same thing. I'm going to invoke my uh, Windows PowerShell. That is nothing but your Windows command prompt. It looks like this, and if I just hit ls, it is going to show me all the files that are there. So I have installed Vina in this particular path, so I need to know where exactly Vina is there. So a tab that comes Vina, and then it should come Vina. Now, if you don't know what should be the flags or what should be the arguments that need to be run with this, you just don't type anything and you hit Vina. It is going to tell you that something went wrong. You need to use the correct usage. So here it gives you a correct usage, that how to define receptor, how to define ligand. If you want to treat your side chain as flexible, you need to define it here. How to define the center of the box, how big should be a box, what should be our output, and out should be input. So it becomes very easy if you write a configuration file. Everything, all of this information that needs to run docking, it needs to be fed in this line, and you have just one small command. So let us just write this small piece of script. So I'm going to write and make an empty document. I name it as config.txt, and it's a blank file. Okay, so the first piece that I'm going to write is input control. So where my receptor should look like, my receptor name is this protein.pdbqt. So I'm going to write prot.pdbqt. My ligand is amplinavir.pdbqt. Make sure you're not making any spelling mistakes, because this will lead you into error. And the error mostly will be file not found, that you know that either you made a spelling mistake or something like that. Once I have given input control, I am going to give it a grid dimensions. Okay, grid details. The tags, hashtags, what I'm adding is so that the software does not read this line. This is just silencing the line. So for some of you who have been taking programming lessons, you would understand that commenting out a line is basically to tell the software not to read those lines. But it is also a good way to tell that what information I'm doing it. So I have, if you've forgotten what we have, let's go back and check here that it should be center underscore x. So it is not this center, it is this center underscore x equal to, and I'm going to now need this information. So now that we have defined a grid center, now we would define what the size should be. Generally, I keep the size as 15 angstroms to begin with. If you keep it default, it is also going to be 15 angstroms from the side. So I'm going to prepare a box size of 15 by 15 by 15. You are free to actually, if you do not like, if you know that the binding site is not exactly cubical, but it is something parallel pipe, or you can have x and y equal to same, and then these directions like a big pipe. There you have z directions very small and x directions very large. You can keep that. There's no limitations to that. The box has to be a cube. The box can be any of the parallelogram family. So now that we have defined, now we are going to define run control. Run control is how long the algorithm should search for the binding sites. That is given by exhaustiveness. By default, it is 8. So I am also going to start with 8. Okay. How many CPUs it should use? If you do not define this, it is going to find out that you have 4 CPUs. It is going to use all the 4. But then you have 2 different jobs. You want to split that into 2 by 2 or whatever. I generally keep 4. If you have a larger machine, then you can keep 8. But the upper limit for using CPUs becomes exhaustiveness. If you have exhaustion 8, you can use at the max 8 CPUs. If you use 9 CPUs, then it will not use it won't throw an error and stop calculation, but it will not use the 9th CPU. If you have 10 exhaustiveness level, then it is worthwhile to use 10 CPUs. So here I'm going to use 4 because that's the maximum limit I can use. And then I have output control, that is what should be my output looks like, and the name. So it's a simple name out, and I am going to say I'm going to directly take this and name it and put it as underscore validation. You be careful that you're not taking the same name as the input, otherwise it is going to override that file. So I'm going to put it as validation because this is our validation run. Log file is going to write all the scores in that file. Your PDBQT also has score information, but it is always good to use a file which has scoring information in one other file, which if you're a programmer, you will realize that this is going to be very useful when you use a virtual screening where you screen out millions of molecules, that you use a log file to search for your score and the name of the molecule. And I want to save 10 top poses, or you can choose any which way you want. I will choose to put 10 because that's how I've been doing it. So now that you have all information, you have input control defined, you have grid information details given, you have run control files given, and you have what your output file should look like all given. Now you can run your Autodoc just by one small command. We know that initially we started looking at Veena AXE, it is --config. Right here, and if you just give the config file, it is going to start docking. Now that this is going to take about 5 to 10 minutes, we can go back to answering a few more questions. Sagar, can we have some more questions?
Yeah, yes, Elvis, sure. I think one of the question is from Dr. Harita.
Yes.
She's asking how close the software for molecular docking can help predict the drug receptor interactions and what are the basis for the same.
How close the software for molecule? I don't think I understood this question.
I'll repeat it. How close the
no,
software?
I didn't. No, I didn't understand the question. I don't know how close or.
Okay. She's asking basically how will you correlate this software for molecular docking that can actually predict the drug receptor interaction that is happening at the structural level.
Okay.
And what will be the basis for the same?
Okay, first of all, choosing the basis for a software is basically the availability and your expertise. So there are a plethora of softwares, right from Glide Schrodinger, which has been very expensive, and they charge like a few lakh rupees of a license. And you have on the other end, you have Autodoc Veena, which is completely free. But at the same time, when they charge you so much money, there's going to be always some advantages that you're going to do it in one click of a button. But in terms of accuracy, that accuracy has to be proved by every software. Now, every software that we have to validate whether we have to validate every docking run that you do at the beginning of your experiment, that the whether Glide or Autodoc, or any software can predict the experimental observed results. That is what we're trying to do right now. And if any of the software what you have it can do that, then that is good enough for your experiment. Now, comparing between software to software, one is you cannot compare the scores. So you have different scoring functions for every software. Every software uses a different force field. So the software's the scoring functions are not directly relatable, but you can see that in the rank ordering, Glide puts up all the best poses on top and worst poses the bottom. So you can look at rank ordering from software to software to understand which has better performance. I guess that's what Harita wanted to know.
Yes, I think. Just add to that, probably on the basis of the type of interaction that is happening at the receptor level,
Okay.
and the type of force field that is your software has. Depending on that, maybe you can choose the type of software that you can use. Okay.
Yes.
Another question is from Dr. Chandrajit. He's asking, sir, all the functions that you have performed in Chimera can be performed in Autodoc.
Okay, what I performed in Chimera is preparation of input files. Yes, if he's talking about Autodoc tools, that is MGL tools, what is I'm opening. Apart from minimization, okay, except for minimization, everything what I did there can be also be done here. Okay, but I used Chimera because for the reason it is very elegant, and it can be also used at the end of your docking server. It can be also used for a nice visualization program to see your results, and then I could do minimization as well. But since both are free tools, Chimera is a visualizer and Autodoc tools to prepare, that can be used in tandem to do different functions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next question is from Dr. Mustaq Sheikh. He's asking how easy it is to define or change coordinates for the docking using Chimera.
To define coordinates is to define the center of coordinate is quite very easy. That they already have an algorithm to just find a set of molecules and find the center of ligand and find out the coordinates. To change the coordinates, now I do not understand in what context, but if you want to change the coordinates of the molecules, that what you would want to do is you want to extract the molecule out of the binding pocket and run a kind of a small minimization so that it destroys the initial geometry and change the coordinate, and you would want to save this file. Or you can edit the file in some of the program, but I know that Chimera is not a very nice tool to edit structures. That's why I'm using Schrodinger. It is very elegant tool to edit structures, and we are all using that in the lab for a while. Okay, you can have one more question before I proceed to this.
Yeah, I think that answers Dr. Mustaq's question. There's one more question from Sapan Shah. He's asking, why did you delete the ligand? Why didn't you delete the ligand in the same manner as you removed all the other molecules such as glycerol and water?
Okay, I can delete that as well. I can
Yes.
do that. I can delete other ligands and molecules in the same way. But I needed the ligand till the last moment so that I could define the center of box. That is how the binding site was defined. Otherwise, you can actually delete the way you can actually delete. You can open the file in the text file and delete all the entries you want to do that. Okay. So before we take next set of questions, we can actually go and see. I see that the docking has been completed. The one thing I would like to do is, now that I have all my docking in PDB-QT, I am going to visualize my results in Schrodinger. So I need to convert this PDB-QT back into PDB. So for this, again, I'm going to take help of OpenBabel. So commands are going to be reversed. So I have OpenBabel. So now in case of IPDB, now it will be IPDB-QT, and I am going to use that Amprenavir validation file. Okay, and my output now will be PDB file, and my output name that I need will be Amprenavir PDB file. Oops, sorry, Amprenavir validation PDB That's it. And I don't need to give any charges because proteins anyway do not hold any charges. So that I have 10 molecules in my, that is what I saved, or 10 molecules have been converted to PDB. So now I need to go to my workspace here and it's ready. So before I do that, I'm going to load my protein X-ray crystal structure, which is already experimentally solved. Okay, I'm going to slightly make it better. We all like to see it in a form of ribbons. So it is how we looked at in a chimera. Now you see again there's some problem with this. So I need to add the double bond orders to just calculate. Takes a while to do that. Okay, now I see all my double bonds and I'm going to put that as protein ligand complex. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to split that entry into protein and ligand so that I can take off one of the partners when I don't want to see other. Okay, so it is already said that the first entry is ligand, the second entry is protein, which is helpful for me when I'm going to load my dock poses, that I want to look at the empty protein structure and compare that how my binding site. So now that I have PDBs ready, I'm going to load my validation PDB. Here. Now you see the problem here is that the names do not appear, but the names appear in one of the files called the source entry. So I can just copy the name of that source and copy that entry into my titles. And I know that it is amprinavine. Okay. So manage my project well, I am going to group these entries into validation. So I can select all and set it as group and called docking validation. This is basically to manage your software well, manage your project tables well, so that you're not confused that once you come back after 5 years and you should know exactly what we're doing. Now the problem here is it has entered 20. So the bug here is it actually inputs every entry twice, which is quite of a software bug. So I'm going to delete every alternate. It may or may not occur in your case, but in this case it has occurred to me, so that I'm going to delete that. Secondly, I am going to beautify it. So I'm going to look at it much better way. So the first thing to do is we're just going to add hydrogens. You remember that docking did not add hydrogens. Docking did not add non-polar hydrogen. So I'm going to add non-polar hydrogen. Second thing, that the bond order information is already fed in, so I do not need to look at it. And secondly, I am going to represent this entire structure as ball and stick model. So, and I'm going to slightly change the color so that I know it is a docking pose. Here, I'm going to change the color into green. Oh. So that the green one, I know that it is coming from the experiment, and the cyan one, I know it is coming from my docking pose. So what I want to do initially is I'm going to lock my protein inside. I'm going to lock my experimental structure. This is how X-ray crystal structure predicts it. And I'm going to one by one load this information and see. You see that this is a nice fit, but I don't know, most of you have identified the error. The error is in this part, that these poses have been exactly flipped. Even though the first entry is the highest scoring pose, but this problem is that the interactions have flipped. So see, that THF part should have come here and the phenyl part should have gone here, but because it is just taking counting the number of interactions, so Autodoc Veena found that with this particular orientation it would do maximum interactions. But if you look at the second pose actually did what it's supposed to do. This is how your docking validations should look like. Okay, sometimes it is a perfect overlap. As the molecules go more and more flexible, you need to increase the number of exhaustiveness or the time you spend in sampling. But now you know that this particular pose has reproduced almost everything in right in conformation slight motions here. What has changed here is slightly this conformation, but this is seen that from most flexible part of the molecule, this is going to happen. Now that we know that this particular molecule is what it reproduced as an experimental pose, this is order number 2. So I'm going to highlight as 2, and for so reason to keep my project table a little more sensible, as I'm going to design more and more molecules, I'm going to delete the other entries. Now the idea of doing this is to identify the interactions. So how do I identify interactions? So once I select my ligand, okay, I can expand. I want to show only 5 angstrom around, that is the first shell of residues most of the time, and I'm going to say show in a stick model and hide the non-polar interactions. Now that I have all the residues that are in direct contact with this particular, this is the X-ray crystal structure pose, and I can give it to highlight particular interactions. So these yellow ones are actually the hydrogen bonds that is happening from O to NH backbone. This is from backbone. So you see there are so many hydrogen bonds. So if you want to see actually the surface of binding that we can do, you have a surface, binding surface, what Professor Coutinho spoke about, the molecular electrostatic potential. I can delete the molecular surface using an electrostatic property, that is electrostatic potential, what he was talking about. So this potential is going to guide me to decide where the empty pockets are, what modifications I should make. So you see, this is how your pocket looks like. You can actually see that there are some empty pockets inside which can be used to expand. I can shut this off by doing this. You can look at it only as once this is done, what we want to do is look at this interaction. So you see there are some more interactions what I saw. Now the thing I need to look at doing our drug discovery is to take this experimental, take this pose and try to make modifications in the structure. So if you remember, I in my slides I identified this particular areas that I'm going to make modifications into. So every time there is some disturbance in that, so can you please mute somebody? Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm going to make modifications based on what I have planned originally in here. So I'm going to, every time I'm going to make a modification, I'm going to see that I'm going to make duplicate this entry in place so that I have exactly an identical copy, but I'm going to name it very differently based on what modification I make. For instance, in this copy, I intend to make this THF into a completely flat molecule and see what happens. So how do I do that? If I can do an edit right here, I can define that as a double bond and a double bond. So now it is completely flat molecule, but it is not exactly clean. So I just need to minimize this. Okay, minimize selected atoms. It is Control M. So if I keep hitting Control M several times, that I know that now that the THF which is not flat, I have flattened it out. Okay, this is one modification I made. So I write it as Furan modification. So go back again and make a duplicate of this and decide what to make is oops, sorry, I made a mistake. This should be validation. To watch out when you make this. I'm going to put this up, and this validation which I made a mistake, I'm going to write this as Furan. Yeah, that is Furan, and but I'm going to make copy from this original and decide to make the next change would be here. If I go back to my interactions, I see that if I take this particular ring structure, there is a positively charged arginine ring. If I put a negative charged interaction or a functional group here, I could get a favorable, attractive electrostatic interaction. So I need to look at exactly whether I need to modify it here or whether I need to modify it here. So looking at the proximity of this position with this arginine ring, I decide that I'm going to modify this into a carboxylic acid carboxylate ring, that is COO minus, which is a negative charge. So if you select the atom, you can add the fragments directly. Now there is no carboxylate fragment directly, but I can add a carbonyl fragment, then I add a hydroxy fragment, and then decided to give it a negative charge. Okay, now this becomes a negative charge. Just quickly minimize that. I'll go back and make another copy of it. And I'm going to name it as COO so that I know what modifications I've been making. Yeah, duplicate in place. So first delete it off. And then the next modification, what we try to do is in this particular ring. Now I go back to my protein structure docking pose. I see that there is a hydrogen bond interactions. So just to check whether how important is this hydrogen bond interactions that we do generally in SAR in chemistry, that you add functional group increases, you add delete functional group decreases activity. We're going to check one by deleting this NH group and see what happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say no NH2, and I'm going to delete this part and make it as NH and see how important that is. So I made 3 modifications. So all that I need to do is save the structures as PDB. Okay, it is just ensure that I've made it export as individual entries and the site sheet is PDB. And when you open my workshop directory, I can see that 3 files are already ready. Now for the docking, I just need to convert them to PDBQT. I'm just going to convert one of the file because I've done some calculations previously to show you how to analyze, because we are running out of time. So it is going to be the same way. Open Babel minus I is going to be PDB. I'm going to convert Amplinavir COO. Okay, and the output file should be PDBQT, the same name. Now I need to give it partial charges based on Castiga charge method, and my output should be exactly same. So I should do this for every molecule that is there, and I will run that, and I would run docking command by either I can do it one by one by editing this file. Now that I need to make this as OH. Now it is no longer a validation, it is actually my experimentation. So I write an out command so that it knows that it is not an input file. Only that change I need to make, everything else remains the same. And I'm going to run. Now I'm not going to actually wait for this docking command, docking program to finish docking, because I have already finished docking them. I'm going to just going to submit this job and going to start analyzing. And it starts running. So once I have finished this docking, I'm again going to convert it to PDB as I've done already, but I have already saved some pre-computed files here. So I'm going to look at it and import it from the project table. Now, the other important thing what was left to do is, once I have validated this, I need to enter the score so that I know what binding score it is. So I'm going to add an entry and tell that entry as docking score and keep it as a real number. I will allow it 2 integers and say OK. The entry is already added somewhere here. I'm going to move it to first scrolling area. So it is here. So Amplinavir, as we remembered that the second pose was the pose that was reproduced by that reproduced the X-ray crystal conformation. So I am going to go back to the validation log file, okay, where all my scores are. I'm going to look at the second pose. Okay, this is actually my score, minus 9.3. Now my idea is here to see that whatever modifications I made, whether it improved the binding, that means the number became more negative, or it kind of was detrimental for binding, that my binding pose, the value was higher. So I just feed in the information. Now that this is the input structure, now I'm going to import the docking structure which I've already pre-computed. In my pre-computed, so I'm going to look at, sorry. Okay, so we made this modification. So I'm going to input that structure. Again, I have this small problem of names, so I'm going to copy this again. So I know this belongs to this. So I'm going to make a group that it is it is COH group. Okay. Oh, now I know that my Autodoc is actually employing all my processors. That's why it is going slow. So I have no reason but to wait. Fine, that is done. Now I'm going to select every alternate pose and delete it because there is some kind of an error. And I get back to my protein structure. First, I need to clean this up a bit. Same things I need to do is add hydrogens. You want to show it as a ball and stick model, and I want to color it very differently so that I know that everything is, when I compare it, I know that which pose belongs to what. Now that I know that this looks like this, now one more change I need to do is invariably adds negative charge. Okay. So if I look at my validation pose and I look at my first pose, again, the problem is the pose is flipped. Okay. So if I look at the second pose, my second pose is almost always accurate. So I know that every time my second ranked pose is going to be very close to the X-ray structure. So I'm going to analyze the second pose. Okay. Delete the others. Okay, and look at the interactions what I want to do. So my idea of making this change was to get the charge interaction. Now you see this charge interaction what I was expecting it, and that is what I have gained. So if I have added a favorable electrostatic interactions, I must expect that my docking score would have gone higher. That means this particular molecule is going to bind better than nelfinavir, amprinavir itself. So if we go back and look at the score here, and I'm going to take the second molecule, that is this. So it is minus 9.6. So minus 9.6 is better than minus 9.3. So I know that I have improved upon my docking. So this way I am going to analyze all the docking I have done. I have done for about all the structures. I can import some more and show you very quickly because I have another 10 minutes max to go. I made the furan ring. Furan is quite interesting. See, it's a flat ring, a very drastic change from the THF, which is not flat molecule. And when you have this kind of a big change, then you can expect some good or bad things to happen in your molecule. Now I'm going to group it as well to furan. Beautify it a bit. Change some other color. Color is up to you, whichever we want to do. And I'm going to add hydrogens just by click of a button. So I know again, I'm going to expect that my first pose here is going to be exact reverse pose. Yes, it is. And so I'm going to look at my second pose. compared to this, and it is the exact fit. Okay, now here the changes is because my ring is flat and this ring is not flat. So again, I'm going to delete the other poses, because as you are going on to build your lead optimization strategies, these entries are going to be filled into thousands, so that you better delete off what you do not want, but keep the raw files. So you see the entire other of the molecules have been exactly reproduced. The most flexible parts have a slightly different conformation. Here I changed a bit of substitution, so it is very different. So again, I'm going to go back and look at my Furan ring modification. The second entry is minus 9.1. So it says minus 9.1, that that indicates that, but preferably this modification was not that favorable, or you shouldn't make this change in your drug design experiment. Also, it led to an unfavorable interactions, that is an orange. So for all, what I wanted to show you is how you could use molecular docking experiments to make this structural modification and tell your chemist to tell them what you should be making. So with this, I would like to wind up this session, because everything else is going to be repetitive. I'm going to import some structures, look at it, and this editing is going to be up to you. What molecules, what adjustments you need to make, and whether they are going to be beneficial for the activity or detrimental for the activity. So with this, I'm going to conclude. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and I can now take questions as long as the organizers allow us.
Yes, sir. I think due to the time constraint, we will be only taking 1 or 2 questions. Okay, so one of the question that we have is, can we do the docking of peptide or any molecule having molecular weight of greater than 1 kilodalton by autodock?
You could do that. There is no limitation, but the problem is you would have to define a much larger box. But using that, the entire autodock was already parameterized for small molecules. The problem of handling the peptide bonds and the peptide rotomers is going to be a challenge. But there are already websites already known to do protein peptide docking, protein docking. ClusPro is one site, Piper is another site, which is specialized to dock protein or protein peptide. Instead of using Autodock Veena, you would want to use that, because you're going to get accurate results, better results compared to Veena, because Veena is not Veena is only meant or developed for small molecule protein docking. I hope it answered the question.
Yeah. Another question is by Dr. Vag Jyoti. The question is there any difference between the results from free software and the paid ones?
That is what your validation results should tell you. If you take the same example as I took in Glide, that is a paid software, or a Biosolvit tool, which is a paid software, and an Autodock Veena or Autodock, technically you should not get a difference, because all of the software developments are efficient enough to at least reproduce what is there experimentally. But it is what I found in my personal experience is now what we did was we were actually juggling between many softwares to run the Autodock, to convert the files, and to get back the results. So what the paid softwares are going to do is actually going to make everything at a click of a button. So if Schrodinger Glide would be here, you could just click of a button and you could do all the docking, and all the results will be back here. That becomes easy. Secondly, they have been optimized to run very fast. That is one advantage. But other than accuracy wise, sometimes Glide can be as wrong as any of the free software, in my personal experience. Also, I have found that Glide had exactly predicted pose which is opposite, or which is not found physiological. And as well as I found that Veena was doing a better job compared to Glide. But this is a case to case, and you cannot generalize. Sometimes it depends on your case to case. That sometimes paid are better. Paid means, for me, it was only doing a good job that I'm not juggling between softwares. I'm using one software for everything. When you don't pay something, then a free, that there are a lot of restrictions that you need to use different softwares for preparations and all those things. But I think you can manage doing that. The today's experiment, what it did was, you can do this docking experiment on your laptop without paying any penny to any licenses. You just need to download, install, and it works exactly how it did today. Yes, Sagar. Can we go to the
Okay.
next?
Now I think due to the time constraint, we will take one last question.
Yes.
That is from Hemant Chikhale. He's asking, as since protein is a very big molecule, can we select a particular chain length of our choice by using Autodoc, and how to do that?
You could do that. Basically, what you would need to do is when I prepared the protein in Chimera, you would want to delete one of the chain which you don't want, and then feed it to Autodoc. That is very easily done. If I can quickly demonstrate that, now you tell me that I do not want the chain B of it, so I can just select chain B that I don't want. Yeah, I selected chain A. Sorry, I need to select chain B, and I will delete the chain B part. So now I have only this part to dock. Accordingly, you can also select particular residue length from residue length 1 to residue length 10 and delete that part and not use it for other docking. But yes, this is how you can delete the part and focus on the right part. But generally, if you have a bigger protein, it doesn't matter because Autodoc calculations are only focused at the binding site, which anyway you're going to keep. So it doesn't matter to keep the entire protein because no computations are going to happen in the part which is not in the binding site. Yes, I hope that answered that question.
Yes. I think due to the time limitations, we are not taking any more questions. If the participants have any more questions, they can always connect with Dr. Elvis. He will be very happy to help you all. Okay. Now, on the behalf of the entire organizing committee, I would like to thank Dr. Elvis for presenting beautifully all the aspects of using freewares for effectively for computer-aided drug design, for interconverting the files, and